Slave colony on Mars claim goes mainstream. On June 29, Alex Jones, host of Infowars.com, interviewed Robert David Steele, a former US Marine Corps and CIA clandestine services official who volunteered insider information about secret events on Mars. Steele told Jones about a slave colony on Mars and the existence of 20 years and out space program which involves children. Steele's comments were covered in a number of mainstream news sources including Britain's Daily Mail, the Daily Beast and the Washington Post, all of which downplayed his comments as mere conspiracy theory. Steele reached the rank of Major for the US Marine Corps Reserve's intelligence from 1976 to 1996, and during this period also worked with the CIA clandestine services from 1979 to 1988. After 9 years as a clandestine operations officer, Steele was one of the first to chase terrorists full-time in the 1980s, left the CIA to become the second-ranking civilian in Marine Corps intelligence, and was responsible for creating the nation's newest secret intelligence analysis facility. His personal website describes multiple initiatives which are threatening the deep state. During his interview with Jones, Steele said, quote, "This may strike your listeners as way out, but we actually believe that there is a colony on Mars. It is populated by children who were kidnapped and sent into space on a 20-year ride, so that once they get to Mars, they have no alternative but to be slaves on the Mars colony. There's all types of disclosures coming out." End quote. Jones appeared supportive of what Steele was suggesting. Quote, "Look, I know that 90% of the NASA missions are secret, and I've been told by high-level NASA engineers that you have no idea. There's so much stuff going on, but then it goes off into all of that. I know this. We see a bunch of mechanical wreckage on Mars, and people say it looks like mechanics, and they say, oh, you're a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Clearly, they don't want us looking into what is happening, because every time probes go over, they turn them off." End quote. Ben Collins from the Daily Beast contacted NASA for a response to Steele's interview by Jones and got the following denial. Quote, "There are no humans on Mars. There are active rovers on Mars. There was a rumor going around last week that there weren't. There are," Guy Webster, a spokesperson for Mars exploration at NASA, told the Daily Beast, "but there are no humans." End quote. The Phi Beta Iota public intelligence blog created by Steele responded to Collins' article where more details were provided about the kidnapped children earmarked to be slaves on Mars. Quote, "Phi Beta Iota. Steele's point was lost on the author. Children appear to have been kidnapped and sent into space on 20 years and out missions so that they grow up between the time they leave Earth and the time they arrive on Mars. The wormhole capability was lost in 2012. There will be multiple levels of disclosure, including extraterrestrial permissions to experiment on and breed hybrid humans, extraterrestrial technologies finally disclosed, and the entire Pentagon extraterrestrial and interterrestrial program exposed." End quote. This made it clear that Steele was not talking about child labor on Mars, but of newly arrived adults from Earth who were forced into slave labor after an extended period of travel. Steele's initial statement and response is worth examining due to what a number of whistleblowers have said about a secret Mars colony they allegedly visited while serving on classified programs that used wormhole technology. These include Al Bielek, Michael Ralph, Andy Basiago, Arthur Newman, and a number of others. Steele is corroborating that such a secret Mars colony does exist and that personnel are taken there using a wormhole and other exotic transportation systems that will be revealed in upcoming disclosures. None of the above whistleblowers, however, discussed slave labor on Mars. The first to do so was Corey Goode, who described in a May 14, 2015 interview what he had seen on several occasions during his covert secret space program service from 1987 to 2007. Quote, "Yes, there were several occasions where there were specially equipment malfunctions that needed to be repaired immediately. On these rare occasions, we would fly down to the location where we'd be met by 4 to 6 armed guards. We would be instructed not to make eye contact or communicate with anyone for any reason unless it was directly related to the work we were there to do. We would be escorted directly to the location of the work. The local facilities security team would watch us very closely and then escort us directly back to our shuttlecraft after the work had been completed and tested. We were never asked if we would like a tour, invited to spend the night or stay and share a meal with the personnel or inhabitants of the facility. We did, however, get a chance to see some of the people. They were usually pale, unhealthy looking, both physically and mentally, and seemed very much like slave labor. End quote. Good said that on June 20, 2015, he was taken to Mars to conduct an inspection of a corporate-run facility. Good described the slave labor conditions and an account of the facility commander as a, quote, tyrant and a total megalomaniac, end quote. What gave Good's claim credibility was that 2 days later, on June 22nd, the BBC published a story titled, quote, How to Overthrow a Martian Dictatorship, end quote. The story discussed a British Interplanetary Society 2-day event that envisaged a Mars colony ruled over by a ruthless dictator who trampled on the rights of workers in a futuristic society controlled by a corporation. The dictator needed to be overthrown without destroying the colony itself. According to the author of the BBC article, Richard Hollingham, the meeting brought together 30 prominent scientists, engineers and philosophers who took their task seriously, only, wink wink, 2 short blocks from the London headquarters of Britain's security service, MI6. The hypothetical situation being debated by leading British engineers and space enthusiasts closely paralleled what Good was saying was occurring in real time. Further circumstantial evidence supporting Good's claims of slave labor on Mars and in space more generally was the US Congress passing legislation on November 16, 2015, exempting companies from all labor regulations pertinent to space mining until 2022. Section 106 of the U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act specifies the U.S. federal courts as having, quote, exclusive jurisdiction, end quote, to commercial space activities when companies voluntarily submit to U.S. jurisdiction. Quote, federal jurisdiction. Any claim by a third party or spaceflight participant for death, bodily injury, or property damage or loss resulting from an activity carried out under the license shall be the exclusive jurisdiction of the federal courts, end quote. Effectively, this act of Congress, which was signed by President Barack Obama on November 25, granted legal protection to companies alleged to be involved in slave labor abuses on Mars and in space. In terms of travel to Mars, Steele referred to a 20 and back space program which involves a wormhole used for an extended period of time by the children. The previously mentioned whistleblowers described the wormhole technology as almost instantaneous. So why the 20-year ride, according to Steele, for the kidnapped children? Are they performing other secret space program duties during their journey to Mars? Was Steele cryptically referring in some way to the 20 and back secret space programs Good and Ralph claim to have completed? I have contacted Steele to get answers to these and other questions. What's clear so far is that Steele has given valuable vindication for Good's claims that slave labor has been secretly occurring on Mars for decades. Steele's forthcoming disclosures may further vindicate what Good and other whistleblowers have been claiming about Mars and secret space programs. While mainstream media appeared very dismissive of Steele's claims, Alex Jones, to his credit, was open to discussing such a possibility to his rapidly growing audience of millions, many of whom had learned for the first time about a slave labor colony on Mars and a secret space program that supports it. Update. Thank you to Robert David Steele for corrections and suggestions for improving the above article. This has been Michael Sala with exopolitics.org.